Hey everyone, it's Tracy. I am sharing another Paint With Me project where I am painting up a 4th of July sign and used vinyl for the sentiment. I cut that out on my Cricut Explorer, and also I will share how I created this little bow from start to finish. So let's get started. The board is from Hobby Lobby. It is a 12 by 12 chip decor board that is found at Hobby Lobby. It's part of the Paper Studio collection. So now I'm just taking my ruler and I'm just making little tick marks because I am going to put a 1-inch border around there. And so that will be my guide to paint the red border. I like to use these little paint risers. I found them at Hobby Lobby in the paint section. They're perfect to raise up projects like this. So now I'm going to paint my red border. I'm just following that line that I made with my ruler. And I am using Americana Santa Red paint with a number 12 flat paintbrush. It is by Plaid. It's the Donna Dewberry collection. I will leave a link in the description below to all of the supplies that I used in this project. I wanted my sign to have a chalkboard feel, so I'm using this black Ceram coat by Delta paint, and I'm using a 3/4 inch flat paintbrush. It is from the same collection. I absolutely love, those are my favorite paintbrushes. I get asked that a lot. What paintbrushes do I use? It is the Donna Dewberry collection by Plaid, and hands down my favorite paintbrushes. I put 2 coats of black as well as 2 coats of the red. I'm not worried about that little space that I have in there getting close to the edge because I'm going to put a blue border. I'm using a 3/4 inch flat paintbrush and I'm going to put white stripes over my board. Now, if you need to measure this, you can. You can just get your ruler and put little tick marks where you want your little stripes to go. But I'm not really worried about if it's not even, because I think that that really gives the handmade painted sign feel when they're not completely even. But if you are OCD and that drives you crazy, you can definitely figure out how to measure in between all of those spaces to make sure that your spaces are aligned correctly. For the blue stripe, I'm going to use this multi-surface Americana satin paint in true blue. And I'm going to paint that with a number 8 flat paintbrush. I often use the end of paintbrushes to make my dots, polka dots, anything like that, depending on the size of dots that I need. So this stencil brush is perfect for the size of dots that I need. And so I took my sandpaper and I smooth it that paintbrush, the end of that paintbrush, so that it would be really flat. I am just dipping it in white paint and making little dots, trying to get them as even as possible, but really it does not matter to me if one is bigger than the other one. It really doesn't matter because that just really gives it the handmade feel to it. I need to measure the inside of my sign because I need to know how big of a square I need to make that I can work with in Cricut Design Space. So I figured out it's 10.25 by 10.25. In Cricut Design Space, I'm using the beta version of Cricut Design Space 3. I inserted a square as a guide, and then I resized that at 10.25 by 10.25. And I am typing in happy, changing the color to white. I'm going to resize that, and then I'm going to go and find the font that I want to use. It's called the Skinny. I do have a video tutorial where I slow all of this down and just show you the Cricut Design Space tutorial. If you would like to see that, I will leave a link to that. But for time purposes, I didn't want to show all of this because this video would have been 30 minutes long and I did not want to do that. So if you would like to see the actual Cricut Design Space part of it where I slow it down and show you step by step of how I sized all of these fonts on my mat, I will leave a link to that. I've weeded out or taken out all of the excess of the vinyl, and so I'm using a 12-inch transfer tape. I get this from Amazon. I will have a link in the description below. It's very easy to use. I am extremely happy because I have a love-hate relationship with vinyl, and so I cut off enough transfer tape and smooth that out using my brayer as well, and just getting out the bubbles so it really sticks, the vinyl sticks to that transfer tape so I can transfer that to my sign. Now I'm putting the blue star on there first because my word is going to go over that number 4, and so I am just smoothing that out, and I'm using a large Cricut scraper that works really good, so I'm just going to transfer that onto the sign. Now I will position the stars, and they're almost like stickers, so I am just peeling them off with my finger. I love to doodle up my projects, and so I am using some of this white slick paint by Tulip, and I am just going to doodle around the sign. I love to use a fine Sharpie marker. This is my favorite black Sharpie marker, and I use that to enhance the outside of the project, just really bringing out all of those colors. I really think that the black Sharpie marker, it's a personal preference, and I just make little dash lines. I don't care if they're straight. I think that that adds to the character of each sign, and it's more hand painted, handmade if they're not straight, because they're individual projects, and so they're handmade and hand painted. I'm going to splatter some paint on this project. It is something that I like to do as well. I'm going to use a stiff stencil brush and just get a little wooden stick, almost like an ice cream stick. And I am just going to splatter it all around my sign where it just really gives the project a splattering paint look. I will give a coat of this glossy varnish. It's by Delta. I will have a link in the description below so you can check out which one I use. Here is the combination of ribbon I'm using, a 10-inch red and blue deco mesh. This window pane ribbon can be found over at Craft Outlet. I'm using a 1.5-inch satin ribbon in white, and this is from Walmart. Now these right here, guys, remember I bought these after Christmas a couple of years ago. It is holiday time, and when I saw this, I'm like, you know what, I can use these for 4th of July, so that's what I'm using on this project. This is my favorite way to make a bow individually. I make the bow and use my little tiny attacher by Tim Holtz to attach that, and then I will put it all together at the end. I will leave a link in the description below so that you can check that out. So now I'm just putting all of my mesh together, just rolling it up in a spiral, and then figuring out which way I want the bow to go. Once I like the placement of all of the ribbons, I will take a chenille stem, wrap that around the entire bundle, and pull it very, very tight as I can in the back, and then just kind of fluffing up those ends or those tails or the bows, and then I will cut off the edges in the shape that I want and kind of clean all of those ends up. I drilled 2 holes with my electric drill in the top of the sign, and now I'm using some blue wire. I will try to find a link to this wire. I've had it for a long time, so I will try to find a link to it, but it is really good to use. It's very easy to use. I'm using my little needle nose pliers to really get it tight and twist that wire around itself so that the little sign doesn't come, or the little wire doesn't come apart. I will attach the bow to the wire using that chenille stem. I will cut off any excess and attach it directly to the wire there up in the corner. I love the way that this turned out. Now, since this is chipboard, guys, I would not recommend putting it outside, but it is definitely something that you can really enjoy on the inside and celebrate the season. If you like these kind of projects, please give me a thumbs up, and I love to read your comments. And subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I love to share crafty ideas with a bit of country charm. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless.